Is it so significant what is deaf to hear again? Is the deafness for the one who has? By the way, I heard another day saying that deafness is even worse than blindness, because blindness leaves me away from the world. Deafness removes me from people. When I'm blind, I stop seeing the world. When I'm deaf, I stop being with people. This should cause a great loneliness, right? So being healed of deafness is to be returned to people. But we might think, but I don't have this physical deafness. I don't need to be healed from this physical deafness. But I have that deafness that drives me away from people because I lost the ability to hear, listening, right? And it's interesting because when I don't know how to hear, I naturally provoke the other, an indisposition to hear me too. When Jesus returns to man this ability to hear, he is returning him to people. This is very interesting to identify. What a part and what made it difficult to be with others, of having qualified relationships. When I say qualified relationships, they are relationships that do us good, that make us grow. Because salvation comes to us in the ear. I knew that. By the word that transforms us. Ruben Alf said that he saw so many advertisements for oratory courses to teach people to talk, course to teach how to speak in public, to have good rhetoric, to know how to argue. But he was unaware of a course of listening, which was precisely to teach us to listen. When we lose the ability to listen to each other, when we lose our willingness to listen to each other, we compromise our relationships a lot. Much of the conflicts we face at home is because we unlearned from listening. And when I say hear, my people is to create the ambience, the willingness for what needs to be said. Because sometimes we even say, but the wrong way. We say to the screams what should be said with patience, with calm serenity. And so we do not solve the questions. And you know, my people, the word transforms our lives. God created the world through the word, and he continues to transform the world through the word. And we who believe in Jesus are recreated and transformed from his word. He did it in the lives of many, and God saves us through the words of the well-intentioned people who love us. But if we don't listen to these people, how am I going to enjoy the saving benefit that comes to the other's word? I always think that when I testify to what God has done in my life, I offer a way for the other to walk and make a similar experience. It is never the same. The experience is never the same, because the God that happens in me, what God does in me, he will do from what I am in. When God happens in you, he will happen from what you are. So our experiences will be different, because we are different. Although God is the same, it's just that I have different needs. And God will act according to my needs. Why do I feel the desire to be better when I take a contact with God's word? Because here I already have the strength of the Spirit acting on me, especially in the gospel. When we proclaim at Mass, it is the real presence of Jesus. It is the real presence. Another day, during a retreat that I preached, I reflected on the seriousness of it. God coming to us through the real presence of his Son, through the Word. It is interesting because we are in a time where we are very unquestionable to hear. We want to speak. Sometimes we hear little, and because we hear little, we miss the opportunity to send solutions or even correct some edges between us. I'm deaf. I am not being able to perceive the voice that guides me. I am not being able to decode the voice of God that speaks for the human voice. God comes to us by the word of the one who loves us. God comes to us through that advice that invites us. And how do you know it's a word of someone who wants to say? When you realize that there is coherence in what the other is saying. Because sometimes what irritates us is not that the other told us the truth. It is that we do not want to assume that the other told us the truth. And sometimes there are people who have been trying to tell us for a long time, trying to speak to us, and we don't create inner or even outdoor disposition. Because depending on the face we make for the other, He knows exactly that he cannot say anything to us. And then we are being deaf, although we have the ability to hear. Although we have the ability to hear, we remain deaf. Or is that deafness that the other tells us the truth? The other tells everything we need to hear to improve, to change our lives. And we interpret it as an affront, as a challenge. We can't hear. This happens inside our home too. Sometimes we children have created an antipathy for what the father is saying, for what the mother is saying, for what the brother says. So, we get this deafness. The word of the other, however honest it is, as assertive, falls us as unnecessary. This is a great damage, my people, because we are transformed as by the word. And if we lose the ability to listen, parents and children, right? You who are a parent, you who are a mother, know exactly how you need to create listening discipline. Children need to be heard. Parents need to be heard. If the relationship is not based on the listening discipline, the family is not possible. And there is a very interesting consonance. Wisdom goes through our ability to hear and also ability to say. The saying is very precious. I have a lot of respect for what I say. I have a lot of respect for the word I look for, especially here in this space, because I know people are listening. And I also know that some people use what is being said here and then pass on. It is a responsibility. How many times do people who are responsible for our formation try to tell us, try to warn of what is being dangerous to us? And we have a filter here that does not allow the word to fall within our heart. You already have such an antipathy. You have already created an antipathy for everything they say. So you don't listen to what they say. So we hear, get angry at what the other tells us. It's not because he wasn't right. No, it's because he was right, we know that. But we don't want to assume that he was right about what he said. So our deafness also manifests itself there. I heard perfectly. The other was able to tell me what I needed to say. And I didn't consider the truth of what he said to me. I did not realize that those words could help me overcome what I need to overcome. I heard with unwell. I heard with laziness. I heard thinking that the other is saying just to piss me off, just to disturb me. Deafness. When I'm deaf because of my lifestyle, not even what I read touches me. I'm so agitated. I have such a busy life that I do not have the happy opportunity to be touched by the words. So I know many of us many need to live the healing, the dynamics of healing, deafness, and speech. God needs to heal us, tear us all the impediments that were placed by life, by our temperament, by our way of being. That makes us difficult to hear what we need to hear and then unlock our tongues so that we say what we truly need to say. This is what Jesus healed in this man. He cured his deafness first, then aroused his tongue to say again. This is also significant. By being healed of my deafness, I resume the possibility of saying what really needs to be said. Listening to life, listening to the facts, so that I can make a better decision. Because making mistakes, we also make mistakes in the decision. Everything God wants from you is already in you. Now just develop. But how do I develop, priest? Knowing first what God wants from you, what he put in you. Don't die ignorant. Don't die without knowing everything God has left in you. Do not die without knowing all the virtues that the Lord has placed in your life, in its human structure. You are unique. You are a well. And you may have been spoiled by many indigents who could not manage your inner indigencies. Because where there is someone who does not know how to manage an inner indigence, there is a damage that contaminates many who are next to it. I, as a priest, think about the damage I can do if I don't have honesty before myself. Me. Every time I have the opportunity to preach the gospel, I want to wake up the best people. I increasingly need to work this perspective on me so that it repercusses naturally on the outside. Me, when I teach mercy, I'm not talking about condescension to sin. I'm talking about a path that allows us to reach our truth. So now I'm a limited. I'm an indigent. I'm going to hand my head all the time. No, the opposite. I will put myself to run. Will you do what needs to be done? Will you run after your losses? We do not have the right to live this inner rejection because someone one day rejected us, or because someone one day didn't love us as we needed to be loved. This is infantilism. I don't have the right to justify my mistakes because someone missed me. I don't have the right. I have to dig my existence in depth to find out in my days where this strength is sheltered. And there, when you have contact with you, when you find out what you reject in you, which should not be rejected, you start forwarding many solutions in your life. First thing, do not reject your sin. Do not be afraid of him. What it is. That I don't do. Yesterday's atheist gave us a lesson of Christianity. Yes, I'm envious. And because I am envious, I am able to speak ill of Father Alexander. I can criticize his activities. That priest, me, when I'm envious, I'm a bomb. Because I'm able to be cruel. So every time I realize the envy in myself, I take it in my hand. My lady, the lady is mine. And who has to have the command in this story is me. It is not envy that will command me. I will manage it with all the honesty of the world. We who are behind the scenes, we know how envy is corrosive among us. A priest who does not rejoice in the work of the other, a nun who does not rejoice with the good she performs there with others. Oh. But this is no tour privilege, not. Where there is someone who is not in the willingness to manage their inner indigencies, there the devilish prevails. What is the diabolical? What does it divide? What separates? What disharmonize? By being honest, you take the first step in overcoming. And St. Augustine said that even in recognizing a defect, you are already in the action of grace. God's grace anticipates everything, including giving us conditions to walk in the recognition of what is miserable in me. So okay, if I take the letter of Galatians seriously, which is the invitation to release everything that can prevent me from being who I am. So I will start living a homework, daily, to start putting at the table of my confrontation everything that in my behavior, in my way of being, does not favor my maturity. And without fear, my people eliminate from our lives any and all situation that can cause this inner rejection. Free from rejection, from all that we offered us or dug by ourselves, as a hindering so that God could flourish the seed that is in us. Yes, I think the great goal of the devil is precisely that we are entertained so as not to reach the core of ourselves, because the lack of freedom is precisely that. The lack of freedom, it causes entertainment. Give me a temporary pleasure, right? And you are replacing with others. And replaces with others and you never does it come to the heart of the issue. There is no overcoming. There is entertainment. I can very well live a life without freedom, seeming that I am free. Today, this discourse of liberation is nothing but a bunch of people tied in their needs, with no willingness to deal with them to overcome them. And social chaos is established there, where libertines make it seem to be freedom what they live. A people who don't want to rule if everyone was the same as you, who don't like rules. What unbearable would be to live. Let's change the music of Tom Jobim. When there is a person in the family core who does not do this homework, to correct in the inner life, or to put this inner indigence about the dynamics of work, routine, struggle, it is unbearable. A person who does not change. I'm too old to change. So it is. Well then, know that it will grow old in the bitterness, because those who do not change is alone. Who is not willing? Who is not willing to live the cut of the gospel? Because this is so interesting. The more you plunge into the knowledge of God, the more he will point to you where your rejections are. And it helps you live the welcome of these situations so that you take care of them, not to get used to them. So okay, I'll recognize that I'm jealous, and I will be a lifetime saying I'm jealous. I'm unfair. No, No. God's action in our lives is precisely at the first moment clarify. And after it clarifies, it helps us to refer to ourselves. Enough of this religiosity that does not teach us to look, this misery that dwells us honestly in the light of divine mercy. Because when I am illuminated by divine mercy, I become more enlightened about what I can do to me. And being at work with me, I waste the time left. That makes me all the time wanting to take care of the other's life. Look, I'll tell you something. When we are willing to take care of our inner indigencies, we are not time left for gossip. We are not time left for so many things that are part of our life. When we start managing our indigencies, you get much more tolerant with her. Not in the sense of passing the head and saying, you can sin at will, okay? Mom is here to protect you. No, it's not that. Mercy behaves justice. I say again, it is not condescension with sin. When I look in the light of mercy, is not to run my hand in my head and be accommodated in my defects. It is not. I look at myself in the light of mercy is not to believe in the condemnation of those outside. Because if there's one thing the devil has achieved, it's militant, and they are all very religious. They are all very militants. Me, when I want to live, I have to go to loneliness. When I want to live fair relationship with me, I have to close all the doors of convictions, including the rejections that were placed to me that also condemn me. Then, if I do not enter the saint of saints, the place where only one fits, nothing happens. If I want to talk to God, I have to be alone. I have to turn off the light. I have to undo the knots, the shoe, the tie, the dreams, the desires. I have to forget the date. I have to lose the bill. I have to have the soul and body. If I want to talk to God, I have to lick the stairs of any and all vanity I have in me, clean it. I have to bleed everything that is an obstacle in me. In the saint of saints, you do not enter with your diplomas, with your gold records, with your necklaces, with your titles. Father, I would like the Lord to talk a little about why anxiety hinders our sleep so much. And if something can be done, my daughter, anxiety doesn't just disturb our sleep, doesn't get in the way, right? Anxiety, this process we have, which is almost natural in us. We are very anxious these days. And why is this anxiety being so present in our day? Maybe because we have the possibility of more. The world gives us many things all the time. And we are naturally anxious because we don't know which rope we hold and where we start. So this context of many possibilities naturally generates in us many anguish. And we take it to bed when we go to sleep, all this world on our backs, because we stopped ritualizing life. You can observe. We go to bed taking our cell phone in hand. We go to bed with the television on. We don't prepare the world so we can rest. I'm not talking about a reality that I face now. Only I face now. I'm sure 90% of our viewers faces this difficulty in having a home that never sleeps. In the old days, the people erased the lamp and it was over. I had nothing to do. I had no television. I had no music device. I had no cell phone. Baden barely had a phone at home that only played when someone died at dawn. Otherwise, it was absolutely inelegant to be calling for a half-person night, 1 o'clock in the morning. Not today. Today, people think we have an obligation to be connected all the time, and that if a person sends a message 1 in the morning, we have to be ready to receive an answer. So we lost our sleep rights. We stopped creating that context that is resting us, which will make us more relaxed, less agitated. We don't prepare to sleep, so when it lies on the bed, our head is 1,000. I'm sure many who are watching the spiritual education program at this time are with their cell phone on the side, in full swing, the zap screaming, whistling. There are some that play some songs from afar. You see that the business is booming. We have the courage, We don't have the courage to turn it off. Ah, stop. But what if anyone calls me? My daughter, it's your right. If we don't start putting a discipline in our lives, we'll get more and more anxious. We will increasingly experience the wear and tear of this agitated life that is causing us a natural dispersion in us. We are naturally scattered. I realize for masses, the religious rites that should naturally lead us to a state of stillness, and end everyone very dispersed inside the table. Mass, which should be a moment of absolute concentration, often ends. Once I saw a priest answering a phone during a christening while, without a lie, I was participating in the baptism. His phone rang. He stopped the business there, spoke, and continued later. You see, this is an expression of the world of species we live in. We don't have the courage to turn off our phones because, I don't know. Answer the question. Why don't you have the courage to turn off your phones? Why don't you have the courage to put discipline so your friends already know? Yeah, after 11, it's no use sending, he doesn't see anymore. So send the other day. We have to have the right to create the right of our rest. So okay, after 9, I will avoid staying on the computer, because science tells us that proximity to light makes your brain activated and unable to cause the natural melatonin we create to sleep. Why do so many people today take this supplement melatonin, which is a resource we have to give the body what we no longer offer? We are stimulated all the time, lights lit all the time, noise all the time, and happy are the merciful, they will reach mercy. Mercy is an essential concept for the life of holiness. What is miserere? Feel the misery of the other. The merciful heart is the one who embraces. Having the merciful heart is that you have love in action. Life of holiness is that I am not perfect. My love is not perfect. When I see someone suffering, I am immediately raptured by the suffering of the other. But I am not a mere spectator. I want to be a spear that enters where you suffer and tries to modify something. Sometimes materially when we are given the opportunity. How many times? Materially. How did you say? I have an experience once I heard. It wasn't because he wanted to tell. No, it was by chance. Eberson, who works with me, went to the house of Aziza to bring the chapel sound material, which was here, in the time we are making Mass every Sunday. And this is where he felt thirsty, when he left the house of Aziza, and before taking the car to get back to Tabape, which is where he lives with me, he wanted to get in a bar in front to buy a water. And when he went to this bar, the Lord told him like this. Hey, I live in Garpuava, me and my wife. We are here in a situation of misery. We came to try life here in San Jose dos Campos. I don't even have to give it to myself. If I don't think I'm lying, the little man here of the grocery store is gathering money for me. And when you have the value, I will. You will buy the ticket for me. Then Everson looked at the Lord, you agreed, said, it's true. And Everson immediately identified that there was true there in that story. Everson is not a rich boy. He works, helps his family, has a beautiful connection with his mother, with his family, with the brothers, helps everyone he can, his friends. I know he helps. He said that at that time, if I crossed this street, it was not to buy water. I crossed this street. It was to find this gentleman and see that he has a different thirst from mine. It is thirsty to return home. It is thirsty to be people again, not to be here in this situation of insecurity, instability. Then Evis asked how much the passage is. He spoke there 400 and few rays was missing to buy the 2. He said, rest assured. So the Lord will have the money. I will give what is missing. He said this man did not believe, because he did not imagine that someone went there and willing to give all that value. He said that he knelt thus in the impetus of gratitude and knelt down. I knew this story because we were talking about another thing when we are in a moment thinking that it is to live that, and suddenly God shows us the other side. What happens at a time like this? It is a movement of mercy. When you are a spear, it surpasses all the layers and arrive in the center, where it hurts. This is essentially religious. This is essentially spiritual. Sometimes we can do this materially, as my friend did for this stranger. I can do this from a spiritual point of view. Sometimes I come across such cruel pain, so hard to live and experienced in solitude, and then I make the way of the spear. Sometimes the first layer of the heart of those who are before me is ugly face. I break her. The second layer is arrogance. I break. Because when we are suffering, we have an ugly face. We are arrogant sometimes. The third layer is sometimes proud. The person knows he needs it, but he doesn't want to. You break that pride, and you go with a smile without mockery. It's not a smile of mockery. It's a warm smile, saying, you are not alone. This pain is not just yours. And gradually, the layers of that heart allow the arrow you are to reach the center, to the place the person needs. How good is that, right, guys? It is not because the other is seeing. It's not to post on Instagram, no. In fact, the life of holiness does not match this publicity that sometimes we make our charities. It is for you to know. God has sometimes made you cross a street to buy water for you to find out that there is a man. What he suffers from exacerbated distrust, tending to think that the other is always lying, deceiving, needs to review his confidence in himself. The reading we make of others is closely associated with our reading of us. Today, as soon as I posted this text, many people have spoken, and it's good. I'm very happy every time a reflection reverberates, because it unfolds. Other people add, question. A first point of someone who questioned was, but I did not say that it is always like this. I said it can be. That it has everything to do. That is likely. And so we need to review the confidence we have in ourselves. It is not a rule. It is not because you suspect others that you necessarily have no confidence in you. What I proposed is that when this happens exacerbated, we need to review the confidence we have in ourselves to see if everything is fine. And many people said I was suspicious because I was very betrayed, very wrong. Yes. It is also true. We are the result of what others deliver us. But we need to take a certain distance so we don't fall into that easy temptation to judge responsibility for others. Okay, you have reasons to be suspicious why they did that a lot with you. But do you always want to be like this? Isn't you miss the opportunity to find those who are being true to you? Or even not to impose those who are being true with you the eternal burden of distrust? It's a difficult path, isn't it? But no one promised us that it would be easy. The fact is that every time you feel that the other may be lying to you, analyze the facts well, realize the situation well, so that you respond if there is a reason for distrust, or if it comes from your lack of confidence in itself. If you come to the conclusion that you need to trust yourself a little more, invest in it. Work on you. Do everything so that you have more and more perception of your possibilities and limits, because we trust ourselves when we are able to live our possibilities and also recognize our limits. I trust because I know what I can offer. I trust because I won't do what I can't. This is always the rule. Examine yourself. Have zeal in your observance. And if you think you are being unfair, distrusting everything and everyone, ask you the question, but then ask the smarter question. What can you do with everything you did? 8 years ago, my husband had a collection of records. I pitied to sell, because in my head, his soul would be sad. I ask you to advise me. No, my daughter, for the sake of God. The records, in fact, that her husband collected are just an effective link between you and him. His soul won't be sad if you don't do that. No, who will be sad, possibly, is you. because it is a way to preserve his memory. I also think this is something you can solve over time, right? How do we deal with our dead? How we deal with the presence, right? Because still today I was talking about it, right? All absence occupies a space. My sister died, but she has a space in my heart. What is the best way for me to preserve my sister's memory inside me? Is it keeping her room intact? I can never donate? No. The best way is to have in my heart everything that beautiful I lived with her. If I left me any material things to remember, that's fine. Even becoming a sacramental. Something that reminds me. But that can't be Amara. You cannot deal with materiality. With these albums that left in the collection he had, as if this were a real presence of him inside your home. And that if you can stop it, you are leaving his soul. The best way to keep the other alive within us is through the belief in the resurrection. It is knowing that he is now in a different dimension from ours, and that in this dimension we are here. Human signs, human realities. I can spiritually take him with me, with a good memory, with a good longing that teaches me and motivates me to live. It's just like the mother who loses her child. She has a hard time undoing her room. To undo his things. This is part of mourning. There comes a time when this is necessary for us to close the cycle of suffering. Because if the room is there the same way it was, we risk not allowing mourning to be organized within us. It's also a way of losing, right? It is also a way of dealing with what is gone. Because sometimes we have this illusion that matter continues to make that person be among us. And that's not true. Ultimately, what we keep from the other is the love we lived, are the joys we experienced together. The sufferings we live in side by side. I wanted to enjoy the day and received an email. I don't have it here in hand, but I remember that the person was questioning an excerpt from my preaching there in Belo Horizonte, and the person said it was very beautiful everything I said, but I put a doubt in her heart. I was saying that what saves us is not so much times that we go to Mass, but it is so much times that love takes inside us. So she was wondering if I was relativizing the value of the Eucharist. In no way. What I was saying is that the value of the Eucharist is not how much we repeat the gesture, but it is how the gesture takes within us. Even because an interesting concept, my people, from the Eucharistic liturgy, of theology that the liturgy teaches us, is that the Mass does not end. Mass is a process of continuity. What is ending is the celebration. So much so that the priest says goodbye like this. Let's go in peace, and that the Lord accompanies us. I remember that when I was a child, I listened to the commentator saying this, and the priest sometimes said, the Mass did not end. Let's go in peace, and that the Lord accompanies us. The way of teaching us that the celebratory moment is only the beginning of what extends in life, so much so that it is cyclical. The offertory is the moment when we understand the cyclical process of the celebration the most, because it is the moment when we bring the offerings, that is, what is the raw material of life to be celebrated. In bread and wine are all our attitudes that we want to be transformed, all our hatred, all our grudges that we want, along with bread and wine, be transformed into the body and blood of Christ. This is what the philosopher has there. He called it a Christification of the universe. It was beautiful that he understands all realities, from the simplest to the most complex, as a similar process. All this reality is in the process of evolution. And he makes the Christian reflection. He has been much fought for a long time, but then recognized as a valid reflection that all that is evolution is Christification. It is a process of improvement. So the raw material that is on the altar is Christification. Everything I put as a human will now be Christified. And that at the end of the celebration, the moment we commune, it is returned to us. Then the beautiful expression of St. Augustine, Christian becomes what you are, receives the one you are, the Christ. So you see the entrance corner, the celebration, the presentation of the offerings, the true offertory, then communion and continuity. See that it is cyclical, the Mass does not end. Then we are living, and as we lose the meaning of what Christ is, we come back to celebrate again. We return to remember. What happens at the celebratory moment is nothing less than doing memory, is to remember the commitment that is born from there. So my daughter, I'm not at any time trivializing. For God's sake, I can't do it because this is the center of my life. The Eucharist is the center of my life. What I say is that we are not enough for us to be every day if we do not continue this Mass in our lives. What will truly save us is how much the Mass took within us. Look, I'm not ashamed to assume this. I believe that in my life, 70% of the Masses I participated in, I did not participate in that sense. She ended, and ended, even inside me. The rite ended and ended even inside me. There was no repercussion in my life. But the more our awareness is that Mass is an event that does not end, the greater the quality of our Christian life. And even because I already talked about it here too, we didn't celebrate another Mass. No, there was a single that happened in history. The only Mass celebrated in time was the one that Jesus celebrated, the Last Supper. Everything is continuity of the only Mass celebrated by Christ. I, as a priest, legitimate the presence of Christ at the time of the celebration. But I am not doing another Mass. No, I'm just extending my arm towards that one that happened. We need a lot of poetry to understand Jesus. This is poetic. This is art of poetry. Understand that one thing, that an event does not fit in time. It extends so great that it is. So just as I extend my arms toward a fact that touched me deeply and I can feel it again in my life, that is to make memory. That is you remembering, updating in your life. Then that only Mass celebrated by Christ with his disciples continues to happen in history every time we gather to remember what it was. And then I take possession of all that is God's continuity in my life. And this is the meaning of the Eucharistic celebration we celebrate. It is to enhance us, to put within us the dynamics of Christ in time and history. Each Mass participated has to be one more reason for Christ to continue alive in history through you. Otherwise, it is right, dead, which absolutely changes nothing. If you do not allow the Mass to put you in the circularity of this celebration, it does not happen within you. You just fulfilled a precept. And fulfilling precept was precisely what Jesus condemned in his time. Jesus radically condemned any form of religion that was attached to rites do not save anyone. What really saves is what the rite arouses. If you didn't wake up, if you didn't get involved with what you celebrated, God had no chance at that moment. This letter here is very sad. I don't even know what day she was sent. Today I was getting drawer. I spent the day throwing away a lot of things and found many letters that I confess I had not read yet. This is one of them. Father Fabio. It is a lot of emotion to know that this letter will be in his hands a day. I want to thank you for helping me, unknowingly, keeping me up after the loss of my son. My name is Emilio, and today I have an angel in the sky named Gabriel. Priest. Jesus called my son on December 27 last year. I don't know if it was this year or if it was the other. And by irony, I don't know. It was his birthday. He would complete 7 years of life. We woke up in the morning, left him at my grandparents' house, next to my house, and went to get the cake from his birthday. When my friend handed me the cake, I got my grandmother's call saying that he was sick and that I was supposed to go because it seemed a serious picture. I was taken to the hospital and I ran. Father, I saw my son being taken out of the car in the nurse's arms, was passed out, with his mouth purple and the sole of his feet as well. My son had a fulminant heart attack at the age of 7. Father, the pain in my chest was like a burn. They did everything at the hospital of my city, trying to bring my son back, but to no avail. I followed Father. The whole ritual of the wake grabbed to him until the moment of the whole. It is as if Jesus carried me in his arms. Friends went to my house and removed everything from the closet that I always prepared with such affection. My boy, my friend, my companion and my son. It was just me and him, priest. The Father did not live with us. Since then, I followed my life with faith I have always had in God, accompanying his program in spiritual direction, and incredible as it may seem, as the Lord told, several reports of mothers who asked for their children and told us, in immense comfort, what to do and how to follow. The new song helped me, and, in particular, the Lord as well. I was always very Catholic, of enormous faith in God. God, in his infinite mercy, carries me in my arms. I'm sure, priest, I'll be with my son one day. Write this letter where this friend Gabrielle gives you, and I ask you to pray for her, who helps me with an amount every month to pay a psychologist who has helped me a lot. I ask you in heart to pray for me, for my parents, Joseph, Claudio, and Diney, for they are stopped in time, although they are faithful to God. The end of the year is approaching, and on September 27 is in the middle of the parties, the most significant festive dates. I'm afraid, priest, to feel it all over again. But anyway, as long as I live, these dates are there, and I will have to face them. Thank you for everything. Your blessing, my friend. May God bless you more and more. My daughter, I have no idea if this letter was sent to me last year. I do not think so. I think she was sent to me in 2014. The sufferings, they don't get older, right? I'm sure you continue your fighting process, break free from loss, just as we too. We need to free our hearts from all that one day is tied that prevented us from going beyond, because the pain paralyzes us. The sufferings paralyze us. The death paralyze us. And you, Emily, for sure, need to face daily the deliverance God gives you through your strength. But it is a human task, difficult to live. It is not easy to bury a child. It is not easy to bury someone we love, because we have many boundaries that make it difficult to live mourning. Understanding suffering is part of us. Also you, who also faces your fights daily. That needs to accommodate suffering for life to continue. Nothing is like us. Things do not happen as we determine. We are not the lords of time. Today we are here. Tomorrow, we are no longer. Today we have the people we love. Tomorrow we no longer have. And we need to be free to understand that. We need to break free from all that the past holds on us, enslaves us, and often prevents us from seeing the grace of the present moment. Or sometimes we are tied in the future that deep people don't even know if it will have. Much of our lives we lose like this, tied in the past or in the future. Little left from us to the present. This is why I'm always very delighted with this ability that Jesus had to wake people to the present moment. This is what we often need, to wake our conscience to understand the present moment. The past may even teach us, the future may even motivate us, but who must determine us is the present moment. This is what I wish you. May your gift be like Dame, although suffered, full of strength, courage, and resistance.